In 1892, 32-year-old Ida Bell McNear had a grand idea to secure the economic independence of Petaluma women. And it all rested on a worm. A worm that eats mulberry leaves and cocoons itself in strong, valuable fibers. The silkworm. In the 1870s and 80s, California became the center of a national obsession with silk. It was not the first time that the silk craze had sent ripples across the fashion industry in this country, but this time it created a ripe atmosphere for Sonoma County, with its Mediterranean climate, to play a role in the sericulture boom. As imported raw silk sales multiplied eightfold from 1870 to 1890, enterprising women and suffragists across the country saw an opportunity to put money directly into the pockets of women and girls. The California Silk Association and its offshoot, Ladies' Silk Culture Society, sprang up to foster homegrown silk-making skills. Thousands of mulberry trees went up across Sonoma County, and Ida Bell McNear, sensing the economic freedom that women could gain from making silk, established the Petaluma Women's Silk Association. Enter the Carson Currier Silk Mill. This grand brick building before you was designed by San Franciscan George I. Havens, built at a cost of $1,500 in gold coin, and opened its doors in October 1892, after a successful campaign by Petaluma businesspeople to attract more industry to town. They hoped to make Petaluma a new center of business, and convinced San Francisco silk manufacturing executives, Edward Carlson and J.P. Currier, to establish their new mill here, the only silk mill west of the Mississippi at the time. The campaign was aided in no small part by Petaluma capitalist John McNear, whose daughter-in-law, the aforementioned Ida Bell McNear, planned to empower local women. The idea was to buy cocoons from women across the state, process it themselves into raw silk, and sell it to the Carlson Currier Silk Mill at premium rates. Sadly, though, just 3 months after the mill's opening, the Petaluma Women's Silk Association found that they just couldn't compete with the cheap cost of imported raw silk from China, and they disbanded. The Carlson Currier Silk Mill, however, was busier than ever, employing around 200 Petalumans, 3/4 of whom were women. The 1920s saw a high demand from wealthy elites for this luxury, high-fashion fabric, and the silk industry boomed. This taste for silk tapered off pretty sharply, however, during the Great Depression of the 1930s, as new synthetic fabrics came onto the market, and increasing embargoes on imported silk from Japan came into effect. By 1939, the silk mill had to close its doors. In 1940, Sunset Line and Twine bought the building and, employing a 95% woman workforce, made parachutes and cording during World War II. This already historic building unexpectedly became the epicenter of a violent dispute that held the nation's attention in 1947. The Taft-Hartley labor law had passed earlier that year, curbing union power, and Sunset Line and Twine became its testing ground. In August of that year, workers voted to strike after their demand for a cost of living wage increase had been denied. What could have been a successful negotiation, however, exploded when the California Association of Employers came in to see just how far they could push the Taft-Hartley Act and, quote, destroy unionism, unquote. Hundreds of picketers from across California came to support the workers. Work came to a standstill. The mill manager, and Petaluma mayor at the time, decided it was the perfect time to leave town for 2 weeks. Violence broke out when a truck entering the mill intentionally ran over the union leader, and union men beat a plant manager in retaliation. People were run off the road, beaten, harassed, and a mill worker even suffered a heart attack. Accusations of communism and Soviet sympathy ran rampant, and as the case made its way through the federal courts, Petaluma became known as the Taft-Hartley test tube. After more than a year of striking, the judges ruled in the mill owner's favor, and the machines gradually began humming again. The company went on to produce cords used in various sports and construction, including the parachute cords used on the Gemini and Apollo space missions. After more than 6 decades, Sunset Line and Twine closed its doors in 2006. The Georgian colonial revival-style building was eventually renovated into a hotel, where today you can spend the night with the threads of countless stories woven through the walls.
History Spots, created and produced by the Petaluma Historical Library and Museum.
Thank you for watching. The Petalumans of yesteryear offer downtown historical walking tours of Petaluma and many other events. Interested? Click the link below.